another edition of Gore War. This week on the show, get ready to sink your teeth into some struggling, helpless animal in the water, because we're going to be comparing two hungry crocodile movies to see which one has the biggest appetite. This is Lake Placid versus Rogue.
Lake Placid is about this lady who is a paleontologist who gets sent over to Maine, which apparently a lot of bad stuff happens in Maine.
Stephen King.
Yeah, Stephen King for sure. She gets sent there to investigate a tooth that has been found in a body that has been eaten by something in the lake. What it is, people are very uncertain about.
Strangely so.
Yeah, considering that it's probably a crocodile. And they eventually work out it is a crocodile, and there really isn't much in the term of story.
No, it's just the quest to sort of kill it. Then they want to trap it because they want.
Then they feel sorry for it.
Yeah, they want to preserve it because for some reason, even though it's killed people.
Yeah, to be honest, the story kind of starts out, and then just sort of stops.
We have this backstory thing of Betty White's character, who is introduced about halfway through the movie. Apparently,
oh yeah, true.
Yeah, her husband, like this baby crocodile from Asia. There's no explanation how it got into a American river. Apparently, followed her husband home one day, so they decided to start feeding it. So they threw it some meat, and then eventually bigger things as it grew. And Betty White just sort of let it live in the river without telling anybody, even when it was snatching cops. This crocodile murdered and ate her husband, and she seemed okay with that.
Yeah, that's pretty much Betty White.
Rogue is set in the Australian outback, and it really drives that point home.
Yeah.
But we had this American tourist. He's a magazine columnist who reports on locations and things like that. So he takes this riverboat cruise up into the middle of nowhere, where he and various other tourists notice a distress flare off in the distance. So their tour guide takes them up the river to investigate, only to find out that it was some overturned boat attacked by some massive crocodile. And the rest of the movie is basically a survival story of these tourists now trapped on this tiny little, like a flood island or whatever it is.
Yes, flood island, yeah.
Because what happens is, as it gets later at night, the water of the lake rises up, and eventually it will completely submerge the island which they're standing on. And this very unhappy crocodile, this very territorial creature, really doesn't like them in its area, and it's slowly picking them off one by one. Rogue is a story of survival, as in Lake Placid is Lake Placid is a lot more slapstick in nature.
Yeah.
And that is driven home a lot in the movie with all these these Three Stooges moments.
I didn't even think they were that funny. I mean, you could at least have put a goofy sound in it and I would have been like, that was a bad idea, but they're not even really funny, goofy moments. Because they weren't even sure what they were going to do with it at the end, whereas at least with Rogue, it was more centered on the people and their backstory, and that's what makes the story.
While both movies have a kind of slow start, I think, as far as a payoff goes, Rogue definitely has it in the bag.
So the characters in Rogue, the main American guy, he was a tourist.
He's a magazine columnist.
He was a magazine columnist. To be honest, he didn't come off too strong, considering the putting an American in an Australian style setting.
He acted very much like a city boy American in the rural country. So he was like, I want my cappuccino, and all these people are beneath me. I'm speaking British for some reason.
But when it came down to the tourist boat, which was good, we got sort of a diverse group of people. And take note, all these characters had something. The movie only had to take 10 to 15 minutes to write in plot using visual. And it didn't really need to say anything. Like the husband and wife kind of bickering, the guy who thought was so big of himself, the guy from the castle who had his camera, who thought he was the shit.
Yeah, Wolf Creek man.
That was the one I was going to say. That is my favorite character, and the reason why the Wolf Creek guy is my favorite character is because they do it in one shot. That, like, when he's tipping the urn into the water, that said 1,000 things within that one shot. His face and his acting. Chris didn't even realise that when we were watching it, that it was him.
Yeah.
It wasn't until he pointed it out. He was like, that's the Wolf Creek guy. He just had this face that you knew he lost someone. And the urn thing, even though they got that out of the way, you now knew his investment. So later on, when there was the husband, wife and child, when the husband had died, he stepped in as the father figure, and he stepped up even though she couldn't swim, she was dying from cancer or something, she wanted one more day with her daughter. He stepped in, and so that was all done within a matter of a few little things. They'd written those in, and I think that's what makes those characters, particularly his character, quite strong, considering he doesn't have the screen as much.
Lake Placid, on the other hand, the only thing you were tense about is how long these people are going to be on the screen before they finally get their fucking throats torn out.
And they didn't.
No, unfortunately. We'll start off with the paleontologist. She was a typical New Yorker. What we said about the American guy in Australia going, oh, look, this is all beneath me, that we got over that pretty quickly because he sort of adapted, he accepted where he was and he sort of moved on with it. But she was like so irritating. She kept complaining about the unhygienic nature of where she was, even though she wasn't in the big city anymore.
She's a paleontologist, for God's sake.
Exactly, you figured she'd be used to these things. I mean, she's supposed to be studying fossils and going into the dirt and getting all this stuff.
It's like a skydiver who's afraid to fly. She kept falling off shit.
Yeah, she was so fucking clumsy.
Every 5 seconds.
She was falling into the water, she was falling into the dirt.
She was useless in that whole film.
She was, and she was our lead. And, oh, God. We had Bill Pullman's character, who didn't really have much of a character, to be honest. He was just there to be the love interest.
We have Brendan Gleeson.
Yeah, he was sort of just there to be the guy who's falling into all the traps, the sort of slapstick victim. And then finally we had the rich guy. We had this sort of backstory thing on him, where he's handled crocodiles before. He's very interested in crocodiles and swimming them, and he's never before in his life ever been bitten by them. And they were really hamping that up on certain scenes. So that sort of came to fruition when the crocodile finally did bite him. And it's like, okay, great, we've closed that chapter of his life off.
I think he was a bit nuts too, because there was a part where they said, did you want to get eaten by the crocodile?
Yeah, they were trying
They
were trying to develop some kind of maybe hidden suicidal nature.
Yeah, he was like, take me, he was almost like, take me, crocodile. And I'm like, this is a bit late now to be introducing this nutsy, I want to be one with a crocodile sort of character element.
I said this in the beginning, and with everything that you said as well, really hammers it home. Lake Placid is characters are just irritating and even a bit cliche at moments, while Rogue spent time to develop these seemingly background characters and made them just so likable, and the loss of them, even though there are only few, still feels very heavy. So Rogue takes it, no questions asked.
Lake Placid's effects. I mean, they used a lot. They used a lot of, I guess, there was some puppeteering sort of stuff in there. There was CG, even CG with the helicopter with, the crocodile caught in the helicopter at one point. Yeah. Those particular elements, they were good. It kind of played out the first part of the movie, you didn't really see anything. And then the second part of the movie, you saw it a lot. You saw the crocodile a lot, so it was kind of going for that Jaws at the beginning, but then once it was revealed, it was revealed. The only thing that stood out for music that were really odd were the 3 love songs that were in there.
Yeah, that was kind of oddly placed.
Especially the one at the credits, where it was like, were they trying to home the fact that this whole movie was about a love story between Betty Wright and a crocodile, or between the main 2 people?
Well, when that second crocodile that sort of just appeared out of absolutely nowhere showed up, at the beginning when I first saw it, I was like, they're going to introduce a baby scene somewhere in the movie. And they do, and I think that at one, you can look at it as like maybe a love story between the two crocodiles, and then they made their babies, and Betty White was looking after the babies. But as far as the effects go, I mean, I think it was alright. I mean,
you liked it a lot better than me.
It was a late 90s movie, so for what it was, it looked okay. Well, I think all that really matters in the end was it better than Rogue. With Rogue, there wasn't so much focus on the crocodile itself. I mean, most of the crocodile was CG, as you'd expect, and it was fairly similar in like visual quality to that of Lake Placid. Yeah, both the crocodiles in both movies look fairly close to each other as far as quality goes.
Yeah, in terms of quality, they look pretty much the same.
But what I really want to sing Rogue's blessings on, particularly in this segment, is because you were talking about music. There is one particular bit of music in Rogue that just hampers up so much tension and fear. And that's something you definitely didn't get in Lake Placid.
Talking about the cave bit.
That was the part where he was trying to save the tour guide lady in the den, in the crocodile's den. Oh my god, I have never been so on the edge of my seat watching a nature attacks movie since Jaws attacking the boat. What he does, he sneaks into the crocodile's den. The crocodile comes in after him, and then is sleeping in the den, and even if he was just trying to get out by himself, it'd be scary enough, but he was carrying a bloodied up, like barely alive woman, and he was looking back every now and then this terrifying bass, bass, like shallow solo would come up, just like this, sort of almost like a heartbeat.
Like that one scene stands out from the movie, from everything else. And to be honest, I even think the death scene of the crocodile is pretty damn good compared to Lake Placid's "We've got to keep it," and then it was like, hey, let's blow up the other one anyway because we got to see what the gun does, even though we all knew it was going to be explosive rounds anyway.
Visually, I'd say they're even.
Yeah.
But if we're going to add any extra points, then I think Rogue's going to have to take it again for the, especially for the sound department, and let's go even to things like use of lighting.
Yeah, the lighting was really good, considering it was shot all at night practically.
Yeah, I think Rogue's going to have to take it again for effects. I kind of had a feeling that it would go this way. I hadn't seen Lake Placid for years, but I've seen Rogue quite recently, and it just had such a larger impact on me after watching it. So I pretty much figured it was going to end this way, so not much of a surprise to me. So the one with the biggest bite of the two movies is definitely Rogue. And that's all from us on this episode of Gore War. Tune in next time, or if you'd like to request a battle, by all means leave it in the comments. And I've been Fedora.
I'm Russ.
And we'll see you next time. Good night. That's good.